All right, we're back. Hello. Yesterday was a dead boring video. It was just theory, and we drew 3 blocks that go together to make the traffic light circuit. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can nip back to yesterday's video. I'll put a card up there for you if you really can't find yesterday's video. And then today, we're going to build the circuit and try and get it working. If you do like this kind of stuff, like and subscribe and do all of that kind of good stuff. It really helps. And then we'll miss a day tomorrow, and then we'll get on with something fun and trains the next day. Thanks for watching in advance, and we'll get on with the construction of the circuits that we designed yesterday. Come on. Now, as always, I will prop my circuit diagram up here. And with the 555, there it is. Yeah, I wonder if I'll actually look at it. I'm sure I will. Now I've dropped it. There we go. Now I knew there was a reason I shouldn't draw them that way around. That's just worked out really nicely for these 3x5 cards. So that's where the circuit diagram is. It's right in front of me there, and so I'll make it down here on the bench. All right, I think I've got everything. Variable resistor, 100 microfarad capacitor. I couldn't find a 0.01, so I'm using a 0.1 instead. It's 10 times the size. Yeah, it'll be fine. This is the 10K resistor, and I've got 3 1K resistors instead of 680. Simply for the there's a bit of solder on the end of that one. Wonder where that came from. That's just for the series resistors for the LEDs. The one thing I don't have out is the LEDs. I'll find those when the time comes. And then we need a bunch of these. Machine gun strip. We need 10 of them, don't we? 1 or 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There we go. Is that right? 2, 4, 6. Yeah. There we are. Then I can put the rest away. The old principle of don't put it down, put it away, kicking in again. While I'm at it, what else have I got here? A bunch of 555s, won't need those. And this should be the .4017s. Let's put those back where they live. All kinds of fun things in there. Never what I'm looking for. Let's start poking things in holes. If we go that way around on a board this size, we're going to run out of space. I'm also going to need some just pure practical things. Some terminal connectors, aren't I? Let's get those while I remember. And for those of you who are not familiar, these are the ones I have tended to use. Now, we need, for the traffic lights, we're going to need 4. And for the power supply, we're going to need 2, so a total of 6. But I'm going to go 2 and 4. So 2 and 4. Is that right? I think it is. Now these things hook together. I don't know if you can see that. Do you see this little lump on the edge there and a groove on the other end. And they just slide together. Now you see all the nicks on my fingers. That's me putting those taps in yesterday, and the sinks had been put in with fiberglass bonding, and it's really sharp. Right, so now at one end we want do want to leave the mounting holes clear if I can. Come on, in you go. Does that left everything clear? It has. Good. And then 2 at the other end. 2 being the power supply, of course. Now if I line it up with that one, we might be able to join those together at some point. You actually could do it with 5, because the common will be common. That's what commons are. And then drop in things. You see the notch in the end there? That's the same notch that would be on the chip itself. Where's the chip itself? There it is. You see the dot at the top left there, and the notch. Well, that notch just gives you the way around it is. Some of them actually have the pin numbers printed on there. This one appears not to. 8, 13 and 15 are all on that side. So if I turn this around that way and pop it in there, move it up one so I've got some space, and then the 555, what we really want, just because of our mental magic that we're going to end up doing, turn that around and stick it in a bit of free space. There's a little bit of space around it. More space needed around the 555 than the 4017. We've got to get a variable resistor in there, and that is going to be joined to pins 2 and 7. And I've got that. Both of them are in the same way round. That'll help. Doesn't really matter, does it? I could put this over here. Move it up there so that it's beside the input there. The only other big component is the 100 microfarad capacitor, and that runs from pin 6. So if we put it over here, 6 to ground. And if we're saying that the ground is this one here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If we pop that in there, it'll end up exactly where we want it, he says confidently. I actually think the ground is going to be 1 up, simply because these things are not. I could move them down. Why don't I do that? No, because then it'll cover the hole. So it won't matter. What else do we need? The other capacitor. And that goes from pin 5. That's over here. So this is pin 5 here. And I'm right there with it. So not far away. I'm trying to be tidy. And now I've got to get 10 diodes in there. Oh no! We could put them beside the pins that we know we're going to need them. So 3, 2, 4, 7, 1, 2, 3. Why didn't I just say 2, 3, 4? Because that's the order they come on. That's what I'm talking about. It's just silly. 3, 2, 4, 7. 4 and 7. That's the red ones. Yeah, that would make a nice easy bus. What I'm talking about here is just joining them all together up top with a piece of wire like that. You solder a piece of wire across them and then they're done. But you then have to fold them down to get away from the others that are doing the same thing. One of the advantages of these holders, when you have these straight into the board like that, you see how the pins are very close to the, so look, I don't know if you can see in there. So if I were running this in there, it's very close to the pin itself, where when I'm using a socket, there's a nice big piece of plastic for me to melt. No, but it provides a little bit of insulation there too. So it's a good idea to use those. If your soldering is a little suspect, all I'm doing is dropping these in, mulling to myself and figuring out where everything goes, and then I'll get back to you, because you really don't need to see me struggle. You can watch if you like, but we'll be here all day. Okay, what I've decided to do is to not work on this just yet. What I'm going to do is get the oscillator working so that I've got the timings right, because I may end up having to change capacitor values and all of that good stuff. So I'm going to leave those legs long just while I set it up. I could do this on a breadboard. Well, I hadn't intended to breadboard this. It's a fairly straightforward project, but I didn't want to take the risk of soldering stuff in and then finding it was going too quick, and it would have been. There is a formula you can work out using this 100k resistor, the variable resistor and the capacitor. You can do a little maths with those. I'm not going to get into it, don't worry. All I've done is change that for 470 microfarad, which I had easily available without doing any math, and it slowed the whole thing down to a reasonable pace. Now, the flashing that's going on, all I'm doing is I'm looking at pin 3 of the chip. And what pin 3 is doing, this is the output. So there's one pulse, it goes off, there's the next. And you have to add those up. So it's going to take 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to be red that long, and then it's going to be amber that long, and then go green. So it seems about right for a model. In real life, it'd be a whole lot longer. So that's what we're going to stick with. There's a little bit of the variable resistors right in the middle, so I could adjust it. So that's the values, and just confirming it all works. And now I've got to marry that to that and just put all of those components over there. I'm off to have some lunch, and I'll be back later. It's nice if you can line them up with the pins they're in, because then when you get, I'll show you, then when you start soldering, you've only got to join from there to there. You haven't got to go all the way around with wires. We will make it work. The other thing is you got to make sure stuff I was about to say make sure stuff doesn't fall out when you turn it over, and immediately that one did. Somewhere there. Let me just flip this up the other way. Bit of black tack right on there I think is going to help. And those three will all be in one big blob. Alright, get a soldering iron. Now this is not going to be a lesson in soldering. Over lunch I was replying to some of your comments. I hit the return bar on the keyboard. I've got black ink all over me. Of course, that stuff is everywhere now. So what I'm going to do is just touch one of these pins. And that will hold that in. It seems like there's nothing there. There is. And up the other way we go. Now we may lose something. I'm trying to hold in about 9 bits all at once. Lovely. You realize if that solder drops, it's going to go right in my hand and you hear me yell. Well, there's the... let's do it one at a time. There we are. I will get the rest of this soldered in, and then we'll get back to you. You don't want to watch me solder. You've seen me do it 1,000 times. Now then, once we get to this stage, it's just a question of zip around. All we're doing is purely a mechanical process. There's no, the dots aren't joined, so it's not a, we're not making electrical contact at this point. Just soldering stuff into the board. I'll give you a close-up of the solder joints in just a second. I suppose you could ask, why bother soldering all the pins in if they're not actually doing anything? Habit. Good mechanical joints make good electrical joints. That's the other thing here. The joints moving around. I have a suspect there. I think that 8-pin socket isn't in all the way. Clean it around there. All right, what does that look like? A few more to do there. Yeah. Now, if this were printed circuit board, there's a couple of joints there I'm not so thrilled about, but it isn't. It's just mechanical. Why haven't I trimmed the wires off? Well, because we're going to bend those over to make them join wherever it is they're supposed to be. But the end result is you've got a rather nice looking circuit board. The chips aren't in. I can put those in at any time. I've got a bunch of diodes to put in, but that's really all there is to it. So I know I make it look easy, but I keep saying this, it really is. Give it a go. I mean, this kind of a circuit, there's really not much to it. Okay, so I do it in zip, zip, zip time, but take your time over it. And if you don't fancy working that close, then just get a bigger piece of board and spread everything out. I'm going to finish this off and then we'll see if it works. I know it doesn't really matter, but you see the gold stripe there? I always like to put resistors in that way round, so the gold stripe is facing the negative end of the board, or the bottom of the board. It just means if you turn it sideways you can read them all. Well, this is the first bit done. Let me just hook a battery up to it. Bits all over the place. Let's see. Where's a wire or white one for the plus? Let's see if something lights up. It did. Does it go off though? Yep. So a bit of a elongated square. Little slow. I'm not going to mess with the adjust. Well, let's see. Does the adjustment do anything? Let's have a look. See. Yep. And the other way. Yeah. So it lengthens or shortens the pulse, which is exactly what we wanted it to do. Now, you would have thought that as many of these things as I have made, that I would have a standard way of doing it by now. There must be a better way of doing this than me reinventing the wheel every time. But it doesn't look too bad. Even the bottom, I'll show it to you. It's a bit of a hodgepodge. This is all heat shrink tubing, and what I've done is tried to lay it out so that I'm ready for the next part. Do you see the red wire jammed in the socket there? That's just the clock pulse. That's where the clock pulse should be. And by me putting it in there and this flashing, I know that that part's working. So we're working up as far as that. So that's good. Let's get on and finish it. Well, I didn't want to bore you with the whole thing, but we're at a point where I'm making the, I don't know what you call them, ladders for the diodes. That one's a bit high. I should drop that down. And it's, yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's all fitting rather nicely. It looks much more complicated than it is. It starts to look like something you'd find in a spaceship or something, but it's very simple. Good. Almost there. We'll see if it works in a couple of minutes. Just got to move that one down. I have it too high, if you see, if you can see that. It's just aesthetics because it really, oh, it's tight on there, that's why. It really doesn't matter, but it just looks better. There we are, so they're more or less parallel. Obviously this is heat shrink tubing. Doesn't really need it, but it's just avoids some of these bus bars, I suppose you'd call them, that are a little close. But it does show you that, you see, it's melted and snugged up there, but by the time it gets to here, it isn't, and it's never been hot there. Yeah, coming along nicely. Not too bad. Even the bottom, oh, that's a bit of a jumble there. But yeah, won't be long now. It looks like we're done. We'll hook it up in a minute and try it. That's what the finished product looks like. Yeah, quite interesting. The backside, not too terrible. I'm not terribly happy with that, but I must actually lay out. I make this circuit up probably once or twice a week in one form or another. I should probably have either a batch of them already made up or a layout instead of always reverting to breadboard and then just plopping things in and see what happens. Alrighty, so we'll, do you see how I've layered? I've got the yellow, the green and the red. I've used the right color heat shrink, at least around here. So the red ones are the red lights, green, the green, and the yellow. Yeah, I suppose I better find some LEDs and hook it up. These little bits of wire are actually the biggest problem. These things fire off all over the place, of course, and they get everywhere. So those, there's another one there, look. Oh, I'm sure they'll be picking those up for days. So yeah, I don't care for the spikes in my slippers. Now I'm busily looking everywhere for the traffic light plastic housing, and I don't have any. I've only got the train ones. So we'll make do and pretend, shall we? I'm going to connect these before I forget which one's which. Can you see them? They're tiny, aren't they? This is the green one here. You see it? I'll put it on my thumbnail. It really is tiny. There we go. As big as a freckle. There's the LEDs there, look. I think I've got them in the right order. We'll soon find out, assuming they work. I know this is the red one because it was the last one I got out and it still had its wires squidged. Let's put the... There we go. Something like that. And then over here we need to just hook up the battery. See here. Yeah, we got a red light. Look at this. All right, let's see. I've got the speed cranked up a bit. So green light, green traffic light. Now orange for, and then red to stop. And now it should go red and orange or red and yellow together. Come on. Yes, see, red and yellow together and then goes to green. So that's English traffic lights for you. If you, where's my circuit diagram? There it is. So, upside down. So basically, pins 3, 2, 4 and 7 in that order
That's the order they give an output. And then pin 10 is next. And if you didn't want the red to come on as well, you just leave this diode out here. So 10 triggers yellow, but it also, that's not an LED, it also triggers red. So you just leave that out. It goes 10, 5, 6, 9, 1, 11. That's the order that they trigger. I drew it this way simply because I wanted the two yellow ones together. So yeah, I think you've seen the circuit diagram, haven't you? The 555, they're the values I'm using. I'm not using, where's my pen? 470. Let's put it where you can see it at least. That's it. I'm having trouble with pens these days, aren't I? It's one of my pet hates, putting a broken pen back in the drawer. 470 microfarad. That's what I used, not 100. And this is 0.1. Other than that, yeah, that's all there is to it. I mean, the 4017 input 3 wires to ground, 1 to the top, and then the rest of the outputs, and the outputs are those. Let me hold these still so that if somebody does want take a freeze frame, you're very welcome to. I should really draw these nicely, shouldn't I? Well, there we are, one working traffic light. Let's pop those in there for next time. I do need to clean up this bit of the desk. A couple of wires there to do with the battery that's running this. So yeah, I've left the bench in a reasonable state. It's going a bit fast. We can slow it down with this one here to about halfway and see what that does, shall we? It'll probably take 3 days to change now. Let me throw that pen away. It was this one, wasn't it? Nice long yellow. Yeah, that's better. So yeah, one set of working traffic signals. I know it looks a bit complicated, but it really isn't. You could do it. I see Doug's arrived with his shovel to dig the nice cobblestone road up. Have you noticed whenever they dig these up, they put a big blob of nasty black tar instead of replacing them? Yes. So traffic lights there at some point in the future. In the meantime, we've got a couple of projects coming up. What have we got? In the next few videos, people have been saying, well, we don't know what you're going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do either. But I do know that's what's coming up. We've got to get that canopy on. I am intentionally holding off now. I've got a couple of things I want to do at the back of that. I'll show you in just a second. The backdrop around the end of the layout. I've already made the hole in the middle so I can get in there. What else have we got? We'll finish up the street and we'll put the tacky cafe sign in. Do you see the viaduct up there? Once we've got the backdrop in, underneath there, I want to put some brick paper at the back and then some more of these arches along there, as if those are additional platforms under the viaduct. There's always trains sitting back there, so why not? And of course I want to do that before I put the canopy back. The other thing will be an update on the tariffs. Changed again, didn't it, in the last couple of days? You never know what's coming. So because of the uncertainty, I'm holding off until the orders I've put in are all here. Now there's, I think, 3 that have arrived, and I think there's 2 more coming. Once they're here, I'll tell you exactly what the status of those are. And if this is years ago and you're watching it now, it'll be over. This too shall pass. Thanks for watching. Really enjoy making these for you. Click that like and subscribe if you like. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers now.